At 99 years old, Mel Brooks isn't keeping secrets anymore. And what he just said has shocked Hollywood. The famous comedy maker behind Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein has finally told everyone about the 5 actors he really didn't like working with. No holding back, no being polite, just almost a whole century of memories and old arguments coming out into the open. Can you guess who they are? Jerry Lewis. When no one was watching, Brooks talked about Lewis in 2 ways: amazed but also tired, brilliant, exhausting, impossible. He respected the crazy genius who had spent many years making perfect, silly comedy, the master of being absurd whose style affected all of comedy. But respecting his work didn't mean he liked the person. The real problem happened in the mid-1980s during early work on Life and X, a smart, funny movie about a rich man forced to be homeless. When the movie studio suggested Lewis's name for a big supporting role, saying his involvement would make the project better, Brooks said no right away. "I don't need someone who thinks he's funnier than the film," he told his producer. Brooks knew Lewis's reputation way too well. Lewis had a habit of changing scenes while filming, arguing with directors about every word and movement, and taking over every room with his huge personality. Brooks, who loved crazy comedy but never gave up control, saw right away that their ways would fight. He protected his creative space strongly, whether in the editing room, on the movie set, or in the perfect timing of a scene. Their one meeting happened at a dinner set up by someone they both knew. Brooks walked in ready to listen, curious if working together might somehow work. Lewis came in late, started talking non-stop about the future of American comedy, and barely paid attention to the person he might work with. Brooks listened, speaking only a little, then left early. No fight, no big exit, just a simple answer. They could never work together. Looking back later, Brooks said it clearly. "I wanted applause." After that night, he never thought about the idea again. On the outside, they stayed polite. Brooks never made fun of Lewis in public. Lewis hardly mentioned Brooks at all, but people in Hollywood knew the truth. There was no friendship between them and no feeling of missing out, only the reality of 2 personalities that didn't match. As Brooks told a friend, "If someone sees themselves as the center of everything, they can't live in my world. I already have a son." Brooks made comedy like a builder. Team first, structure before craziness, rhythm more important than ego. His movies let stars shine, but only if they saw the production as a whole world, not just a spotlight. Lewis couldn't do that. His ego wouldn't let him. Working with him, Brooks believed, would have been terrible. Not because Lewis wasn't talented, but because of the problems that would follow: rewrites, angry outbursts, fights for control, endless arguments, and the slow draining of everyone's energy. Too loud, too overwhelming, too late in his career to change. In truth, there was never a scene written for Lewis, never an approach from Brooks, not even a quick phone call. Only a distant respect for a comedy legend who made millions laugh, but could not work inside Brooks's world. Even genius has limits. In Brooks's world, talent alone never got you in. What mattered were trust, timing, being humble, and being willing to serve the story rather than take it over. Some actors were passed over because they couldn't act well enough. Others, like Jerry Lewis, had too much talent. What they didn't have was the one important thing Brooks demanded: the ability to play with all their heart and without being selfish within the comedy. Gene Wilder. For Mel Brooks, no work problem hurt more than the quiet breaking apart of his friendship with Gene Wilder, the man he once called his artistic twin flame. Wilder wasn't just another actor passing through Brooks's world. He was a partner in changing comedy itself. Together, they didn't just make films, they blew up expectations. Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein. These weren't just successes, but huge events, wicked and brilliant, held together by Wilder's shaky sincerity and super-sharp timing. He brought a kind of electric tenderness to Brooks's wildness, turning chaos into magic. But after Young Frankenstein, the ground between them started to shift. Wilder had given everything to that film, shaping its script, creating its heart, keeping its tone steady. Brooks, with his never-stopping drive and careful eye, fought to protect its vision, insisting it stay black and white, insisting it stay true to their shared instincts. They made something that would last forever, and yet, hidden under the applause, cracks began to form. Wilder had a new script, The Adventure of Sherlock Holmes's Smarter Brother, a story he'd written, dreamed of directing, and fully expected Brooks to help with as producer. But Brooks said no, not because he was mean or didn't believe in the material. "Gene just wasn't ready to direct. I knew he wasn't," he later said. Wilder heard that reason not as protection, but as rejection. He had hoped for partnership, mentorship, more of the magic they'd created. Instead, he felt a door quietly close. He made the movie anyway. Feldman, Kahn, the familiar faces were there, but the old magic was missing. Their shared warmth had cooled. The rhythms were off. What once felt easy now felt forced, as if the group they built together had broken apart. In the years that followed, they drifted apart. Not with fireworks or public accusations, but with silence. No interviews explaining blame, no sharp jokes from either man. Just two former partners walking side-by-side paths that no longer crossed. Brooks told a friend. "It was like watching your brother pack his bags and leave home, only he left carrying your best punchline." And in Brooks's very loyal world, that absence left a lasting pain. When they finally saw each other again, by chance, not on purpose, there was no big reunion. A handshake, a few gentle jokes, the warming of something once frozen, a fragile reconnection, but not a fix. The trust that had defined their best years stayed broken. Brooks had once relied on Wilder to complete thoughts he hadn't yet spoken, to fill scenes naturally, to make ideas better before they had shapes. After Smarter Brother, that special loop had closed. Wilder walked away, and Brooks, always protective of his creative circle, never reopened the door for a second leaving. Chevy Chase. Through the 1980s and well into the early 90s, Chevy Chase's name came up again and again in talks around Mel Brooks's projects. Studios pushed hard. They wanted big names in Brooks's films, and Chase was exactly that. A recognizable face, a proven draw, a smooth master of the dry, sharp humor that had defined Saturday Night Live and carried Fletch to success. On paper, he matched Brooks's comedy style perfectly, but Brooks said no every single time. The reason was simple, though rarely said out loud. Chase broke Brooks' most important unwritten rule. He wasn't a team player. Brooks had watched the pattern happen from far away. In interviews, backstage talk, and stories swapped among friends, the same truth kept coming up. Chase was sharp, incredibly quick, and wickedly funny, yet just as capable of freezing a room with a single comment or a smug lift of the eyebrow. Yes, he could make people laugh, but he could also ruin harmony. Brooks once told a casting director, "He's not performing, he's waiting. Waiting for everyone else to stop talking so he can remind them he's the smartest guy there." For Brooks, that attitude was deadly. Comedy, in his belief, thrived on generosity, on actors who could hit a punchline and then gracefully hand the rhythm to someone else. He wanted partners who blended into the team, not ones who grabbed it. Chevy didn't blend, he blocked out everyone. The closest Chase ever got to a Brooks role was Spaceballs studio executives suggested him for Dark Helmet. He had the voice, the dryness, the presence. Brooks barely thought about it. He chose Rick Moranis instead. "Rick knows when to step forward," Brooks later said. "More importantly, he knows when to step back. Chevy only knows how to jump in." For Brooks, comedy chemistry was more important than celebrity value. Timing mattered, trust mattered, ego didn't. And in Chevy, ego often took the lead. In private, Brooks described Chase as a man who crashed into comedy rather than moved with it. Always smirking, always operating at a distance, Chase could charm an audience, but refused to soften into team rhythm. Brooks believed comedy required sincerity, real commitment, even in the most absurd moments. Chase, in his eyes, rarely gave enough to believe in the moment irony protected him. They did meet once, a short, stiff meeting that left no spark. Chase showed up with star swagger. Brooks arrived, searching for that hard-to-describe click, the musicality of working together. It never appeared. They parted politely. Brooks gave him a faint diplomatic smile and said, "Maybe in another universe." Chase never crossed into Mel's years. Later, Brooks would sometimes talk around the subject, thinking about actors who were too aware of themselves to be present, always careful to skip over names. When a host tried to press further, Brooks offered only a sly smile and changed the topic, leaving the rest unsaid. Harvey Korman. Harvey Korman arrived with the background of the Carol Burnett Show, where he had long been the center point of countless sketches. He thrived in a place built on looseness, improv that bent the room to his will, scripts that changed mid-breath, characters born from sudden ideas that was his natural environment. But stepping onto a Mel Brooks set meant entering a different world entirely. Brooks didn't direct. He composed every beat, every tone, every tiny pause was part of a carefully tuned symphony. A single improvisation could knock over the timing, and Korman, brilliant as he was, couldn't resist drifting off course. Their biggest clash exploded on high anxiety. Brooks had cast him as Dr. Montague, the dignified, sinister boss of the Psychoneurotic Institute for the very, very nervous. The character was crucial to the film's delicate absurdity. Korman, however, wanted to reinvent him from the ground up. Brand new quirks, off-the-cuff tangents, entire stretches of improvised talking. Brooks shut that down right away. "We already wrote the funny part," he said. "We just need you to do it." Korman got upset. From there, tension stayed like a hum in the walls. Korman questioned blocking, paused to re-examine jokes, nudged at lines as if reshaping them could make them better. Brooks, normally flexible, mischievous, a ringmaster of joyful chaos, began trimming conversations to seconds. What should have felt like their usual comedic electricity became day by day a delicate diplomatic mission. Crew members later described the mood as silent warfare. No screaming matches, no dramatic showdowns, but every exchanged glance, every note, every reading carried the weight of two strong wills refusing to bend. Brooks muttered to a producer, "Harvey wants to direct the movie. Unfortunately for him, I'm already doing that." By the last week, Brooks gave instructions through other people while Korman spent breaks alone, no longer hanging out with castmates. And yet, on screen, none of it showed. Korman was too gifted to let tension ruin the performance. Dr. Montague came out pitch perfect, the comedy sharp, the tone flawless. Audiences laughed without ever seeing the strain behind the camera. But Brooks remembered, and he remembered the price. After high anxiety, Korman's name disappeared quietly from Brooks's casting lists, not from resentment but from exhausted resolve. Some actors bring joy to a set. Brooks later said, "Harvey brought brilliance." But the brilliance came with friction. There was no public fallout, no tabloid flame out, just two professionals recognizing the boundary of their partnership. Korman publicly praised Brooks for years afterward, and Brooks openly credited Korman for lifting up some of his finest work. But they never reunited on a film. The rhythm, Mel's sacred invisible rhythm, had been disrupted. Brooks could handle big personalities, unpredictable energies, even outright diva behavior. But once working together turned into a tug of war, once the dance became a duel, the joy left the process. And for Brooks, joy was the lifeblood of comedy. Frank Langella Mel Brooks was deep into the early stages of Dracula. Dead and Loving It, a project built on whirlwind energy, gags flying like shrapnel. visual comedy stacked on absurdity, and a vampire who existed halfway between menace and full-blown buffoonery. Enter Frank Langella, stage royalty, the man who had already mesmerized Broadway audiences as Dracula. Tall, elegant, magnetic. He carried a royal darkness wherever he went. On paper, he was Dracula. Brooding, sophisticated, hypnotic, and ironically, that was exactly why he didn't fit. Brooks wasn't chasing gothic romance or shadowy atmosphere. He wasn't after a tortured immortal with centuries of sorrow etched into his cheekbones. He wanted velocity. He wanted chaos. A Dracula who could seduce a room with perfect speaking one moment, then accidentally fling himself into a fireplace. The next, Langella arrived carrying Shakespearean thunder. Brooks needed controlled mayhem. From the moment rehearsals began, the clash in tone was obvious. Sessions dragged. Brooks, normally a maestro of improvisation and comedic frenzy, found himself tiptoeing around Langella's seriousness. Langella didn't volley jokes back. He didn't loosen up. He spoke every line like it was part of a cathedral sermon, heavy with weight. He wasn't playing Dracula, Brooks later joked privately. He was playing a martyr. Brooks tried soft steering at first, gentle adjustments, encouragement toward looseness, even playful nudges into silliness. Langella listened carefully, nodded respectfully, and then returned like a knight returning to his post to the same somber, unyielding performance. Cast members exchanged uncertain glances. Crew whispered half-jokingly, half-concerned. Are we filming a comedy or a grand opera? The production's rhythm was beginning to wobble under the weight of Langella's seriousness. Then came the moment that ended the experiment. During a test read, Brooks handed Langella one of those classic Brooks setups, dramatic tension designed to collapse into pure slapstick gold. Langella paused, confused, and asked in complete sincerity, "Do you want me to mock the text?" Brooks, after a long stare, murmured, "No, I want you to survive it." And with that, the truth was clear. Langella was performing in a different universe. By week's end, the split happened quietly. No blow-up, no bad blood, just a dignified exit. And into the empty space stepped Leslie Nielsen, a master of straight-faced lunacy. Nielsen possessed a rare ability to maintain total seriousness while the world melted into chaos around him. He wasn't the haunted, gothic Dracula Langella embodied. He was the comedic anchor Brooks needed, a vampire who could slip on a rug and make it look like destiny. What do you think about the names Mel Brooks hates? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this, and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.